great to be with you on this cold and drizzly Thursday afternoon. I almost said morning.
Yeah, yep. It's still happening.
And what do you think of the outfits?
Again, we showed up in our matching leather coats.
You guys, this is like the third or fourth time we have showed up in like twinning outfits.
It's so
funny. Everybody should start placing bets.
Yep.
As to when
what we'll wear next time.
We need to start texting each other before, I think. What are you feeling today? And we had for a while, and then we got out of the habit. But we're so glad to be with you today, talking about all things love and marriage. And we're excited to share with you a video that we recorded earlier this week with Mike and Linda McCollum and their wealth of knowledge. But before we do that, we did just want to share with you our speaking of marriage, wedding photos and a little bit about, our lives and Valentine's Day plans. So let's do that first. Kate, what do you guys have planned for Valentine's Day?
Nothing big. I mean, nothing very exciting. But every year I just do like heart-themed snacks throughout the whole day. So cinnamon rolls, we like untwist them and then I roll the corners back in so they make hearts. Just slather on all the sprinkles and all of the good gooey stuff. And my kids are just pretty much high on sugar all day long. And then ever since I was little, my mom used to get Papa Murphy's heart-shaped pizzas for us. And so I did that tradition through college. Like whoever I lived with as roommates, I'm like, we're getting heart-shaped pizza tonight. And so we still do that for our kiddos. So that's always fun and easy for us. But I think Chris and I might do a dinner together after they go to bed. Just set the table nice. Because I don't know, we haven't gone out on a date in a while. So we'll do something at home for that. But yeah, what about you guys?
Sounds good. You've inspired me to do a little bit of extra fun with the girls, right?
Heart-shaped
doing
food.
some heart-shaped fun stuff. Nothing official and major for Brad and I, but the family, we have something fun planned. So we bought tickets to go see Glowfari at the Oakland Zoo. Based on your post that you shared, because it looked amazing. But we had bought tickets for the week that the kids were out for Christmas, and because of the shelter in place, our tickets got postponed. And since the kids have President's Day off from school, we decided to do it Sunday night. I thought it'd be something fun to do on Valentine's Day.
That's good. You're going to love it.
We didn't have any other plans. So was it fun? You took the kids, right?
Yep, we took the girls. And it's just pretty. They had like Disney music playing in one section. I'm like, I feel like I'm getting a little Disneyland experience right now.
That's perfect. You were saying like all the right things for me. So that sounds really good. All right. So tell us about your wedding photo, Kate. I'll bring it up.
So this is Chris and I. We just celebrated our 9-year wedding anniversary on January 6th. And we have been together now like longer than we've been apart. So we had like our dating anniversary the day after our wedding anniversary. And my cousin was our photographer and she's amazing. She had taken photos all throughout the day and she like wanted this one last photo before the ceremony. And I'm like, I am not going outside. We did a first look beforehand. Like, I'm not going outside. People are showing up. Like, I don't want to go out there. And she goes, the lighting is perfect. And we went and took a couple right outside and like, they're my favorite ones. And I'm like, if I wouldn't have listened to her, I wouldn't have had these. That's 9 years ago on our wedding.
I love it. That's so great. Let's see. So here is my photo. I don't even recognize those people in the photo, you guys. So that Brad and I had been dating for 5 years before we got engaged. So near our 6th anniversary, we got married, and that was 20 years ago. So we grew up together, and we met when I was 19. And so, we've been married for 20 years. We celebrated this year. And so I think forever, our 20th anniversary is going to be a funny one because, of course, it was during COVID. You couldn't do anything major. But we went to dinner at 21st Union, which is one of our favorite little restaurants in downtown San Mateo. And it was freezing. And we were sitting outside at a little table at the corner of the parking lot where 31st Union is. Cars are whizzing by. Like, Brad actually walked to CVS nearby to see if he could buy a blanket because it was that cold. So I think we'll always laugh about our 20th anniversary. But that's our wedding. So there we are. Great. So I will go ahead and introduce Mike and Linda. We'll just transition right into the video now. We did run a little bit long with them, but I just didn't want to cut anything off, and I wanted to get to all the questions because they're just such a wealth of knowledge, you guys. So Mike is an elder here at CPC, and Linda runs our PM MOPS group that has been meeting off and on in person in the backyard in San Carlos this year. And they've been running PM MOPS out there for, I think this is their 3rd season now. And they've just both been so involved in mentoring young families and have just been pillars really here at CPC. And I just think there's such an amazing example to us for what a strong and healthy marriage looks like. So I will go ahead and bring on their video and hope you guys enjoy them.
See you soon.
Great. Here we are with Mike and Linda McCullum. Thank you both so much for joining us. We're so blessed to have you here with us today and sharing a bit about your marriage and some advice. And thank you for answering our questions. I feel like marriages, especially now during this COVID time, are just under intense pressure. And so we're so thankful to be spending this time today to just, think about some things big picture and then really get practical with some takeaways that we can start applying to our marriages. And just to hear your perspective is really going to be a blessing for us. So what we thought would be fun to do to get to know both of you is just to ask some kind of fun lightning round questions to get to know you a little bit. And then we'll ask some kind of fun marriage things and you can respond with either Mike or Linda, who it applies to. And then we'll get into kind of our more serious questions. Sound okay?
That sounds great.
Sounds good.
Great. We're happy to have you. Okay, so first question. Early bird or night owl?
I'm a night owl.
Night owl. How about you, Mike?
Night owl.
Night owl, definitely. Okay, me too. I'm definitely a night owl. How about spender or saver?
I'm a saver.
And I'm the spender.
That
has not changed throughout the 38 years.
How about date night out or date night in?
Ooh.
Out.
Yeah, out. I would go out too.
And that answer might be different, like pre and post COVID, right?
Yes,
I think
yes.
we're
For
all
sure.
dying for a night
We've
out.
learned to
for
have
sure.
date nights in, but we do love going out.
Perfect. All right. So now here's some questions for you as a couple. And let's play this kind of newlywed style. So you have your cards and you can kind of hold up who it applies to. Okay, so who made the first move? You're in agreement. Okay, both Mike made the first move. Okay, who steals the covers? I love it.
I'm constantly cold, so I assume it's her. So
How about who's the better dancer?
that's not even a question.
No contest. Okay, great.
He makes
I
me
love
look
that.
good, though.
How about who's more likely to be running late?
Wow. As evidence today would be another example of it. So
Love that. Okay. Whose car is the cleanest?
well, to clarify, her father owned a car wash. Okay, so she grew up with it ingrained in her thinking. So I think that was
It's true. I worked at the car wash for many years, so I like a clean car.
Excellent. Excellent. And that's it. That's great.
That's cute.
So thank you guys. Thanks for playing along with us on that. So now if we can kind of transition, we'd love to hear a little bit about your family, how you guys met, how long you've been married. Tell us a little about that. When you're ready, I can share your pictures. You can just let me know.
Okay. All right. So we have been married for 37 years. We're celebrating 38 this year. And we have lived in San Carlos, California for 32 of those years. And we've also been a part of CPC for 32 years. And we've just loved CPC. It's our church home. It's our church family. It's a tremendous blessing in our life. So it's really fun to still be serving at CPC through all these years. So we have 4 adult children. We have David, Emily, Jake, and Brett, and they are very close in age, between 35 and 30. We had 4 kids in 5 years. It was a little crazy at the beginning, but we made it, obviously. We're still here today. The first 3 are married, and our youngest son is still thinking about it. And then we also are blessed with 5 beautiful, healthy grandkids, and just had our 5th a couple weeks ago. He's darling. So anyways, we're just very blessed and happy to see our kids enjoying life and embracing love and marriage as well.
Yeah, and I'll take a swing at how we first met. So obviously, she was way out of my league, pretty clear. But one day she wandered into my fraternity and with her best friend, and I knew her best friend. Her best friend and I had met before, and so I asked her for an introduction. I met Linda, and things kind of went pretty well. I asked her out shortly thereafter, and our very first date was Super Bowl Sunday, which is interesting. So it's really, this is the 40-year anniversary of our first date.
I believe that's
Oh my goodness, I just thought about that. So anyway, and after that, things I think continued to progress. The one little add-on for me is that I graduated a year ahead of her, and so it became very clear after I left her presence that I wanted to be with her all the time. And so once I had moved away, it was just really for me a race to get back and get a ring on her finger. So that was the plan. So
I was engaged to Mike before I graduated from college. We started young. I graduated in June and we got married in September. So it was, anyways, we met in college.
That's it.
And my grade point dropped a lot after I met him.
Yeah, that was to be expected. Mine went up, actually. I was not a great student, so I managed to drag her down to my level. So.
Love that. Thanks so much for sharing that. I did just want to share your wedding photo came up, and then I did want to share this photo of your beautiful family.
There they are. There's a lot of them.
So great.
So the 5th grandchild is still in my daughter-in-law's belly over there, and then there's also a little Caleb is in my daughter's front pack. So our grandkids are all pretty close in age right now too. So it's pretty fun. It's pretty crazy when we're all together, but it's the blessings of a long life together, which we love. So
excellent. Great. All right, so let's get into some of the questions that we had come in. I'd love to start with this one. Can you share with us a favorite moment from your marriage?
A favorite moment. Wow.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, you had a kind of a take. You want to take that one?
What was the?
Well, we had kind of more of a general theme of favorite moments, I would say.
Sure.
Well, go ahead. Well, since you're thinking of it.
Okay, I'm thinking of just kind of, we really do treasure moments where we get to be just the two of us. In our young marriage, that was very hard to find, but we did manage to carve that out, and we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. We did prioritize that. So those were always, we never went on we did go on a few big vacations without the kids, but we would even just do little things. And those were kind of little investments along the way that we really feel added up to a great foundation for us and the joy of just being together. As you young moms know, it's very hard to carve out time for yourself, let alone yourself and your husband. So I think we found pretty early that those were pretty special and treasured times. And then also I would say some other favorite moments have just the little things along the way that you do every day as a family, and cultivating community as a family. We have been fortunate to live in the same community for 32 years. We did have our first 3 kids and started our marriage down in San Diego for 6 years, but we've been in San Carlos for 32, and I would say a lot of our favorite moments revolve around our community there.
I would add that we also have done a fair number of projects together, construction projects.
You're putting that in the favorite category?
Yeah, I am, because although those inherently have an amount of stress that comes along with it, we found out that we work well together and that we have the same pace and we're good at encouraging each other in the right way. And so looking at those moments, especially in retrospect, and seeing what we accomplished together, I kind of consider a good moment.
Yep, I would do that too. We have been in agreement on a lot of stuff revolving around home projects. And if you know us, we've done quite a few.
We've done a few.
Yeah, I'm kind of ready to hang that up, but we might have one more in us. Well, anyways.
I love that. I need your advice on home improvement projects. We have quite a few going on right now.
Yeah.
So what have you learned about your marriage that you wish you knew earlier?
I'm going to jump on this one first. I didn't realize how different men and women can be until I was actually in a marriage. That is one thing I really feel like the Lord has taught me along the way, is that we are created equally but very different. And I think I didn't understand that or embrace that as much until a little bit later in our marriage. And I think that I would have wished that I had known that a little bit earlier. I think I fought against our differences a little bit more than embracing those and trying to understand our differences and working with Mike. And so that's one big kind of overarching theme of trying to be a student of your husband and be a student of men in general. And the Lord blessed us with 3 sons and 1 daughter. So I have to learn this male psyche in a big way. And I think I'm better at that now than I was at the beginning of our marriage. And I think that's a big thing. What about you?
Yeah, I think I would have liked to have known early in the marriage that I could deliver bad news to Linda and I could trust her to be able to handle it. I felt early on that I was afraid to make her unhappy. I was afraid to upset her. And so I think that when I faced adversity, I tended to carry that one myself and hold it in secret, and I think that was a big mistake. And looking back, I think I could have. Now I know, obviously, and that I could share that with her, and she can handle it. At the time, I wasn't sure. I was getting to know her more and better, and referring back to my earlier comment. I was way ahead of my skis here, being able to get to marry her. So there was a part of me that was thinking, I don't want to mess this up even now that we're married. So. Didn't want her to hear a lot of bad news about work and things like that. So anyway.
And I think too that our big encouragement for everybody that we try to tell, I think, younger couples is you have to have a long view of marriage. Marriage is not stagnant. People are not stagnant. Circumstances are not stagnant. Your spiritual development is not or should not be stagnant. And so the stage that you're in right now with these young people clawing at you and pulling on you, literally, that's like a very short view of where you are right now. It is not going to be like that in 5 years or 10 years or even 20 years. And I think a lot of couples get caught up in the weeds of a short view and thinking, this is the way it's going to be. This is bad. We're not working together as a team. I don't want this for the next 30 years. God doesn't want me to be this unhappy for the rest, next 50 years. You're right. God doesn't want you to be unhappy for the next 30 or 50 years. But I think that if we kind of pause and say this is a long journey, a long haul, and deal with short-term issues in the short term, and take a longer view that we are cultivating something, that we are growing something, that we are building a foundation together. You weather some of those storms early in your marriage, and we really feel like you'll be blessed on the other end and coming out of it in a long life together. if that makes sense.
I love that so much. And hearing you both speak on this, I feel like I can't wait to grab my husband and listen to this recording with him as well. Because even though, we designed this for Moms with You in mind, I feel like, and I hope that you get the opportunity to play this back and listen to it with your husband and talk about it together and how it applies to you two and where you are in your marriage right now. I just love that. And Mike, thank you so much for sharing about just trusting Linda to bring things to her that you wish you'd known that earlier. I feel like, oh yeah, I can think of times in my marriage where that applied to me. Like I could trust Brad to bring difficult things to him. So thank you for sharing that. It's good advice. I wanted to read a question that came in from a mom. She says that hopefully I can word this well, but during COVID especially, my husband and I have been struggling with things feeling transactional. It's not quite competitive, but we tend to compare much of what each of us is doing in terms of childcare and chores, while both of them are struggling to keep up with demanding job expectations, where no one cuts you any slack for having little kids or cares that you haven't slept in years, right? I think we can relate to that. She wouldn't say that they've been serving one another and their family as selflessly as they could or should during this season, where self-care breaks or breaks at all are exceedingly difficult to come by. Mm-hmm. So what advice would you have for them in that situation? I think we can all kind of relate to that on some level.
Yeah, I'll start off on this. This is a tough question, to be honest. The pandemic has changed every relationship dynamic that there is. It absolutely has. I think first I would say, please don't make any opinion or don't form any opinion based on what's going on during the pandemic about how that this might be the way it's going to be, et cetera. This is a unique situation. But that being said, I do feel that the division of, let's say, labor or chores or all of that is an issue that we all have to deal with. And speaking from the husband's perspective, what I would suggest to husbands, and I don't presume to say this to the wives, but what I would presume to say to husbands is choose a chore or chores that and I would recommend choosing a distasteful chore and make it something you own. Own it. One thing I think I'm good at is doing dishes, and I choose to do dishes. I want to do the dishes. I don't do the dishes every night. I can't own that. But whenever we have a big pile of dishes, whenever there's a messy pots, the big, I own all that, and I want to take that one, and I just that's me. And so I think if you choose a tough one and say that you're going to be responsible for that, I think that demonstrates something to your spouse, to your partner. The only thing I would add to that is you can't keep score. I mean, it's just that it's impossible. You will never win. You will never. Keeping score will instantly cause you to lose because you're going to create disappointment. And out of that disappointment, you're going to end up with false expectations. And a theme for this whole thing is that, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later, I think, but just don't let your expectations drive your behavior in your marriage. Let God work through both of you by being humble and approaching it. In fact, even doing chores from a servant position versus you did this, now I get to do this, and the trade-off kind of perspective.
Mm-hmm. Those are good things, and I think this is a very common question or frustration that we have. Is like, we know what we did. Like, I know I did this and this and this today, and I saw him do this, but he hasn't really asked how he can help or whatever. Men are not mind readers, and we should not be mind readers of our husband. We can't be. So this is where that good old communication comes into play. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you need to communicate it in a non-stressful time. If you can find a quieter time Just say, you know what, I've been feeling really overwhelmed lately. I could really use some help with the dishes. I'm pretty beat up by then, and I could really use, is that something you think you could help me with a couple nights a week? Or just really communicating before it, like Mike was saying, if your expectation is not being met and the bitterness is starting to grow and resentment is starting to take hold, I would say that you need to really communicate in a non-stressful, in the moment, if you will, and express to him how he can help you and how he can be a support to you. And we're assuming here, obviously, that your marriages have a foundation of love and mutual respect. And we realize that there may be some people listening to this who are not in a great situation, and we are not pretending or saying that everything can be, just worked out with a sense of humor and a good attitude. There's a lot of situations where we would encourage you, of course, and the church would encourage you to get some spiritual guidance, counseling, whatever is needed. So, but the thing of the keeping score, it never works, because somebody is going to end up being disappointed always. So we would say that is something to tackle before the root of bitterness and resentment really takes hold of your heart. So.
One last thing, if you have babies, and this is to the husbands, take all the stinky diapers. Those are yours. You do the stinky ones, okay?
That's an easy one.
I love that. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yeah, I feel like the tackling the chores and responsibilities is, like you say, Linda, always kind of a struggle, but especially during COVID, where there's just no escape or no break from those chores and from responsibilities, and the division between work and home and boundaries around when we can and should work, those have just all been removed. And so yeah, I think the challenge and struggle is just exacerbated. So we appreciate your perspective on that, and just keeping lines of communication open. And unshared expectations always lead to disappointment. So yeah, I think that's just great advice for us to keep in mind. Now we can maybe kind of get into some practical kind of type of suggestions too. One of our moms asked, what can we do to take our marriage from good to great? And that, might be difficult to answer. I think you'd probably have to look at your own marriage uniquely and what struggles or what things you're doing well, and how do you keep doing that, or struggles do you have and need improvement. But are there some things that you think of top of mind when you hear kind of taking your marriage from just good to great?
I got one if you want me to start.
Okay, you start.
All right, so good would be having boundaries set for when you have disagreements and arguments, so that you don't overly push each other's buttons. Good would be not not going to bed without resolving a difficulty or a difference between you. But great would be being the first, racing to be the first to ask forgiveness. That would be, in my opinion, an example of great.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of individual situations where we have a chance to move our relationship from good to great. Disagreement is one of them, like Mike just mentioned. Also, like in the area of finances, good is setting a budget, having discussions about what your priorities are as a couple and how do you get there, setting some goals. And I would say great would be fully recognizing the other person's strengths and weaknesses in these areas, and getting specific about what practicalities come into play on an everyday basis, and having continued discussions. Not just doing it like once a year or waiting till you're in some financial difficulties, but to really keep that conversation. I know finances can be a big one. That was our biggest challenge as a young family. as we had some very financially difficult times. And I realize there's bigger things than that, of course, of illnesses and mental health and all kinds of things. But finances was our biggest mountain that we had to climb and learn together through some very deep valleys that we went through as a couple. And I think it really helped us be a stronger couple. So recognizing that some of the things that you're going through, we just heard Tim Tebow talk the other day, and it just stuck in my mind. He said, there's no comeback without a setback. And you can't have this great comeback where you're, celebrating without a big setback. And so embrace those setbacks. I think that will help take a marriage from good to great, is when you embrace the setbacks and plan a comeback together. So that's one thing. And then I think another thing we talked about is having confidence in each other to handle things that they're better at than you, and go through those together and recognize the gifts and talents that God has given you and how he's placed you together, and work more as a team. And I think that'll help move things along too.
That is timely advice for me in the middle of those home improvement projects where I have some ideas about the way it should go, and Brad has some skills and talents, and I just need to be okay with that and let us run in the lanes the way God has gifted us. That is very timely. So how about this question? How can we actually, I'm going to say that one. What can we do? What are some practical ideas and ways for us to love our husbands? What are some things we can do as wives? Really practical ways to show love to our husbands.
The first thing that came to me, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, is to really become a student and be willing to learn about your husband and his particular strengths and challenges, I would say, and understand those, and to celebrate the differences. I think that's, I don't know how practical that is. It's a little more philosophical, but my main thing is back to that communication piece. I know it just sounds so trite, but you really need to ask him. Be a student. Ask him what matters in his life. Ask him what his dreams are. Ask him what his goals are for his work and his family and his spiritual life. Don't assume them. And this, another question Mike came up with, which I thought was good, is like, ask him about what he admires about his best male friend. Hopefully you are your husband's best female friend, but there's a different friendship, obviously, that men, if your husband is blessed with friends, ask him what he admires about that person, and that may give you insight into what's important about him. And I thought that was really interesting. And I think the other thing too is practically speaking, you do need to learn their love language and respond to that the best that you can, and revisit that often. I mean, I think we sometimes do that at the beginning of our marriage, or even as we're dating or engaged, we go to like a marriage conference or something, but you have to constantly be learning about the person that you're married to. Like I said, it's an evolving relationship. It's a growing and changing relationship. So be a student of them, I would say, is the best way to practically love them. And then the other thing that we talked about was planning things. Plans don't make themselves. Don't assume that things are going to happen. Mike is really good at this. He will plan day dates for us. He will plan hikes for us. He will surprise me with things. And I have tried to do the same for him. And so make plans without your kids, hopefully. We're really big on that. We can talk about that in a minute. But make plans and actually try to have, discussions that involve deeper questions. Even if they're questions that you think of in advance to talk about over dinner, don't just talk about the kids and the finances. Have some deeper questions in mind when you're out.
That's good.
Is there anything else practically loving my husband that could be improving on? Well, there's probably lots of things I could improve.
We'll talk about it later.
No.
No. That's not. No. This might be a good time to insert what I would like to call the bed pillow dilemma, and this is an ongoing issue for me in 38 years of marriage. But I bring it up just because I think the assumption. So our bed that we sleep in has many pillows on it. I don't know what those pillows are there for. It's been 38 years and they've always been there. There's been tons and tons of pillows. Sometimes they change, but I still don't know what their purpose is. I don't really know why they're there. So my point of it is that at some point early on, I needed to accept the fact that those pillows were going to be part of my marriage for a really long time. And I really didn't need to know exactly why or what purpose they served. I just needed to know that they made my wife happy, and therefore I needed to accept that. And arguing about why the pillows are there or the reason for the existence of the pillows was not going to help the situation at all. I needed to just accept it and be happy with it. To this day, I'm still not very good at the positioning of the pillows, because apparently they're like a puzzle and they have to sit in exactly the right place. But I'm working on that too. And I think maybe by 45 or 50 years, I'll have that down as well. But
okay. That's we have an agreement that the last person out of bed in the morning makes the bed and the first person makes the coffee.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'd rather go make the coffee than the bed, or vice versa, or whatever. So that's kind of our
There's
agreement.
so many pillows, you have no idea.
It's not that many pillows.
I can relate. I have a lot of pillows on our bed too.
I know, and
I'm definitely the last one out of bed in the morning, honestly.
Anyways.
But thank you for that idea of continuing to be a student of our husbands, and that idea of like constantly pursuing them, I think is so good. Brad and I have been married 20 years. We just celebrated that really recently. And I think, after 20 years of marriage, you think you know someone, but there's always more to learn and can continue to grow together and change. And that's very inspiring, the idea of continuing to try to have deeper conversations and not just assume we know the answers. That's so
right.
good.
And I think there are so many resources out there right now that, even fun question. I mean, there's a million questions and resources that you can use. And it doesn't have to be like this big, heavy thing every time you go out to dinner, or every time you take a walk, or every time you plan a picnic. It doesn't have to be heavy. That's not what I'm saying. But just be conscious of continuing, like I said, to be trying to understand them better and hear their perspective on things. And that's all.
So good. Yeah, I think we can maybe even share via email or a link on our Facebook page some questions to consider. I think we have some resources on that we can share too. Be fun just to tuck one in your back pocket. You're driving in the car or something and one comes up. I thought this next question was really interesting because I can see how this might apply to a lot of our marriages out there. How can we encourage our husbands to read the Bible more? I think often women seem to be more spiritual or have a natural spiritual bent. Maybe we just have more time to be in Bible studies, or we seek that connection with other women to really continue to grow spiritually, where for men, maybe it's a time issue, or, there can be a lot of things that kind of get in the way. So we might be in those situations where we're really trying to encourage that spiritual growth. And so what advice would you have for women who are in that position where they want to be a source of support and encouraging our husbands to grow spiritually? What advice would you have there?
Yeah, absolutely. Take that one.
This can be a sensitive one. I actually feel, and you may, Christina, you might not agree with this, but I I don't necessarily encourage the wife to be the one who drives her husband in this direction. I would encourage the wives to look for a male in your group, in your surrounding friendships, that maybe someone married to a friend of yours that you feel has some biblical maturity, and then find ways to encourage that relationship. I think that kind of encouragement and maybe even discipleship is better coming from another guy to guy. I think they tend to receive it better. I know, speaking for myself and just others that I've been in this kind of relationship with, they tend to take that better. It's a peer relationship in that way. It doesn't threaten them in a way that it could feel that they're threatened by hearing that from their wife. Here's an example of why it feels threatening. Most men know that they should carry at least some responsibility to be the spiritual leaders in their house. They should understand they should have a very big responsibility there. And when they hear that from their wife, there's an immediate challenge to that. That it's I'm not carrying the load here in the way that I should. But hearing it from another guy, different. It can be delivered in a way that, hey, I want to measure up. I want to match up with what you're doing. And so if there was an advice I would give, it would just be to see if you can't put your husband in potential mentor-mentee relationships, discipleship type relationships, or someone who might be a good example even in this area. That might be maybe a better way to approach it. That's my perspective.
Mm-hmm. I want to just piggyback onto that, is that I think the woman's role there is prayer more and prayer support, that the Lord would bring somebody into their life, or a friendship, a spiritual friendship, spiritual relationship, mentorship, even if it gets to that point. Like Mike said, rather than the wife saying, I would love for you to read the Bible more, which is great. But yeah. So, and the other thing too is, I think we talked about maybe, you can, if your husband is a reader, or you can suggest maybe reading a book together, something like that brings out things. But I think a lot of men would, if their wife is complaining, or just making note that she thinks he could do ABC better or more, might be taken a little bit more harshly.
That's good advice. That's good advice. I love the idea of prayer and seeking out mentorship and relationship opportunities there. And in a way, that's kind of a relief, I think, for me to not have the burden of having to provide that encouragement or pushing anything. I think that's a relief to me. So as we're kind of nearing the end of our time together, I'd love to hear from you guys. What are your final thoughts? What are your the things you want to know? If we were all sitting together in a room, what would you want to say? Take this with you, tuck this in your pocket. The kind of closing thoughts, and then I'd love to have you guys pray for our marriages as we end our time together.
Okay, a couple things. My overarching things, my kids hear me say this all the time, is that the best gift you can give your kids is a strong and forever marriage. And there's going to be a lot of crazy decisions that you have to make along the way. But if you are investing in cultivating that marriage, and there are generational benefits to that. And so even as grandparents now, we tell our kids we love having our grandkids over, and we love taking them, places and things, but our ultimate goal is to strengthen their marriages. And so if we can help them out with a date night, or if we can help them out overnight so they can go away and celebrate their anniversary or something, we want to do that, with the encouragement that they are building a marriage that will benefit our grandkids far longer than if we, buy them ice cream and play with them. So, which we also love to do. But anyway, so it gets back to that longer view of marriage, and also the fact that you're even here and in MOPS and wanting and listening to hear wisdom and growth and ideas on how to strengthen your marriage. You are way ahead of a lot of people in the world and even in the church. It goes a long way. You're investing. And if you think of it as a garden analogy, like there's going to be weeds that pop up in that garden. But you know that the weeds are usually short-lived and not great. But if you tend to them right then and you have the longer view of that cultivation and that investment, that you're going to get some beautiful blooms. And there's going to be some times of dormancy. But dormancy doesn't mean the end. Dormancy is just a season. And so take the longer view of marriage. And also, we really believe that even if you don't have family in the area, you can cultivate friendships that feel like family, where you can switch off kids, get out for dates, day dates even. We'll watch your kids this Saturday. You take ours next Saturday. Go on a picnic. Doesn't have to be expensive. We really believe in couple time only. And however that you can creatively make that happen, we encourage that. And then I'm just going to read one scripture, and then Mike's going to end up with something too. So this is Philippians 2:1-4, and Paul was talking about spiritual community, but I feel like it really applies to marriage too. So therefore, if there is any encouragement in Christ, if any consolation of his love, if any fellowship of the Spirit, if any affection and compassion, make my joy complete by being of the same mind, maintaining the same love, united in spirit and intent on one purpose. Do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility consider one another as more important than yourselves. Do not merely look out for your own personal interests, but also for the interests of others. So that's really packed full, and you can dissect that later. It's Philippians 2:1-4. But even if we just pray on one of those things, being of the same mind, intent on one purpose, working on these things in our marriage, united in spirit, those are the foundations of, I believe, a long and not only a good marriage, but a great one.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I would also say even a great marriage will never be a perfect marriage. Mm-hmm. And don't fall into the perfection trap. There's a whole society around you and a whole advertising industry around us that's trying to drive us into this perfect life and perfect marriage and perfect kids and perfect everything. Just don't fall for that. It's not possible. And all it is going to do is create expectations and set a bar for each of you and for your marriage that you can't not hit, you cannot achieve. So do everything you can to, as we said earlier, to enjoy the moments, even if they're brief moments. Celebrate those. Sometimes I look back on 4 kids in 5 years, and I realize that that all we got sometimes were literally just moments, but they were great moments. Now, I have this to share with you. As time goes on, those moments stretch to minutes stretch to hours to days. So we have a lot more time to enjoy each other now. So you do have that to look forward to, but embrace the moments that you have. In fact, I would encourage you to fight hard for those moments that you guys can have, just the two of you together, as Linda said.
Protect it. Work for it. It's worth it.
Do you want to pray?
I'm getting choked up. Oh, dear Lord, thank you so much for this time, and you pray.
All right, Father. Thank you. As my wife has said, this means a lot to her, as you know, and as everyone can see, and she cares deeply about these young marriages, and she cares about their development, and she cares about their maturation, and you care about their development, and you want to see them grow and become just a blessing to each other and to others. Father, I pray for strength. I pray for sacrifice. I pray that those that are watching this would not grow weary in well-doing, and not grow weary just in the day-to-day. That they would continue to embrace that first love that they had with their husbands, and that you would continue to remind them of that. And I pray right now for the husbands. And Father, I just ask any of you guys that are watching this that you would look to your Heavenly Father for strength, for confidence, for your sufficiency. Don't look for it in your job, and don't look for it even in your wife. That they would look, and that you would look to the Lord for that. Father, we thank you for this fun time we've had here with Christina, and we pray these things in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I'm getting teared up too. Thank you both so much for sharing this time with us, your words of encouragement. How did you guys enjoy that? What did you
Woo. That was good. Linda at the end. Linda, I just typed in the chat, I love you. Thank you. What an example, and something to strive for. But I love what they said of you need a long view of marriage. I think I so frequently get stuck in the short view of things, and just to remember that is short and it will pass, and that you want your marriage to last a lifetime. And I love even what she said, like generationally, like they want to give their kids date nights to pour into their marriage and their grandbabies and stuff. I just thought that it was just all very sweet and very touching. And I'm feeling great about this talk today.
Yeah, there are a lot of good moments. The idea of like continuing to study your spouse too, I thought was so good. Just so many great takeaways. I hope you guys get a chance to watch again with your spouses.
Yeah.
I definitely plan. I told Brad already when I came home after we taped the first part of it. I'm like, hey, we're watching this together. Like, get ready.
Valentine's Day.
It's so good. So great. So we have just a couple closing announcements for you guys. And then we want to get to our Zoom chat so we can all discuss with each other how it went. But again, thanks to Mike and Linda for joining us and bringing such just great wisdom. When Mike was talking about finding a mentor for your, a spiritual mentor for your husband, I was like, Mike.
Yeah, Mike's gonna have a lot of new best friends.
Right? Okay, so on to our announcements. We have, let's see, there we go. Couple things coming up.
And just one thing before I dive into those two. Last meeting, we were going to give away a copy of The Memory Making Mama. So April, you are our winner. So I will leave this on my porch since you're going to do a porch pickup. So you'll have this as a little extra in your goodie bag. And then for today's giveaways, we have 2 copies of a couple's connection journal. And Chris and I just started doing this like last month. I got this for our anniversary gift. And every week there's 3 questions to do as a couple. And some of them are really light and simple and fun and make you have creative answers, and some of them are really deep and can kind of dive into those bigger topics and those bigger questions. So I thought this is like perfect for what Mike and Linda just described to us about communication and date nights and stuff. So be on the lookout for an email with the 2 winners for that, and we'll be sure to get those to you guys. And we're just going to draw from names of everybody that is registered for MOPS this year. And then yes, our Valentine's goodie bags. You guys, these are so fun. I know exactly what's in them, and I'm still so excited to open it when I get home with my kids. There's just so much goodness. There's crafts, there's cookies, there's games. Like, you really, if you haven't signed up to pick one up yet, it's not too late. You'll still get to do it at our house this weekend. But you want this goodie bag at your house this weekend. It's going to be really fun and create a little fun for your Valentine's day as well.
Yep. And if you can't make it on Friday, swinging by here, we're going to be out here passing them out between 4 and 5:30. If Friday doesn't work, I'll have some at my porch in Foster City. Caitlin's in San Mateo. You can swing by.
Text us for our address and we'll get those to you. They're fun.
Or even, tag us in the chat and let us know we need to connect, and we can connect with you on that. So we want to make sure every MOPS family gets one.
Yes, so fun. And then our last, and a big thank you, we're just gonna throw it out there, Erin Metzler. Erin kind of spearheaded this for us and you guys, there's like little crayons in there that she melted for you at her house, peeled all the crayons, melted them. So she just put a lot of hours and time into this. So thank you, Erin, for bringing us all a little joy and a little love this Valentine's Day. And then our last announcement is for 2 great family offerings at CPC coming up. One of them is on on the 21st, and it's a family gathering outside. They're little winter. They're going to have some crafts out there for you and the kids. And I believe there is a sign up there's 2 different time slots you can sign up for. So go on cpc.org/events and that will be there. And then they're also offering a mental health parent lab on the 28th of February. And there's going to be 2 amazing ladies who I get to call both of them my friends. I love them. And they are just going to share a lot on mental health from kids 0 to 18. So we all kind of fit in that range right now, and just how you can help your kiddos during this time and just things they might be processing and going through. So you don't want to miss out on that. It is virtual, but you can sign up for a link so that they'll send you all of the Zoom information for that. And with that, I think we're done. We can go on to our Zoom groups.
I think that's everything.
Yeah.
So enjoy Valentine's Day. Hope this meeting was an encouragement to you and to your marriage. And one more thank you for Carol. Carol put an extra special, the Oreo treats in there too. So we did want to thank Carol as well. Just a special gift
Carol
to
Laura
all of
for
us.
making them.
So thank you for those. All right, go ahead into your Zoom groups and we'll see you next time.
Bye, ladies.
everybody.